Behind every Ray Lewis and every Haloti Nade and Kelly Gregg, one thing I love to do on this show on Monday nights is just breaking down X's and O's. We're going to do that with the Chalk Talk, but it's been my experience 12 years of having the team in here that some of the best people I've met in sports in my whole career, and I go back, oh my God, I've been doing this since 1984 now, 23, almost 24 years of being involved in the media. I like football coaches more than I like most people I've met in the business. And you laugh at that or whatever, but I find as a whole in the profession, the level of dedication, love that you have for the sport and for the essence of the sport, and that's one thing that Marvin Lewis impressed upon me very early, was the way that the sport is perceived on ESPN. And in the news, and in the media, and all the goofy stuff that Mike Pettine writes, has really very little to do with football. That the drama that plays itself off the field, whether it's the Michael Vick dog story, or whether it's who Tom Brady is dating, or any of that stuff, has nothing to do with football and the X's and O's and the classroom setting that you guys have. And I think your story is as fascinating as anyone's out there, and I'll go through it piece by piece, but Mike is from the Philadelphia area, and you can pick it up wherever we want here, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Your dad is really a legendary coach, and I think for people in Baltimore, if you have an Augie Weibel or a Doug Duval, like some of the legendary coaches there are in Baltimore or the Maryland area, your dad is that guy in Philadelphia. Maybe you could talk a little bit about being a coach's kid and doing this for a living, because you were really an outside shot to ever do this at the level you're doing it. You are a lottery ticket winner to some degree, correct?
I guess you could put it like that. It's not a very common path that people have taken to the league, and I tell people that the planets really lined up for me. I was just fortunate to have grown up in a house of just an unbelievable high school coach, and got an opportunity to play for him, which I still have some dark memories of that. Playing for your dad's not
the hardest job, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and the guys on the team think he's going easier on you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I look back on it now. To me, it was just a great experience. But as I was going through it, I mean, it was just absolute torture. But
what did you play? What position did you play?
I played quarterback and played defensive back.
Wow. So you were the quarterback.
Yeah, and it didn't help. There was a teacher strike one year, and I was a junior, going to be the starter, and people thought it was only because of him, and petitions going around and had to be removed. I mean, it got a little crazy. It was a football crazy town, so. But it all worked out, and I was fortunate enough to also coach for him in the late 80s and in the early 90s, and learned a lot of football then, and also was a graduate assistant at the University of Pittsburgh, where I got to meet Matt Cavanaugh, actually. He and I became very good friends, and he was actually later on ended up being my ticket to get in the NFL.
So give me the Matt Cavanaugh story. Tell me how one gets a ticket to be a coach in
Pittsburgh. Then after
how'd you get the Pittsburgh job? Just through your dad or through?
One of my former players by the name of Chuck Dritzback was hired by Johnny Majors to be his defensive coordinator.
What year are we looking here?
93.
93, okay.
So I was there for 2 years, and got to know Matt. Matt left to go into the NFL, ironically to work for Buddy Ryan in Arizona, and work with, was on the staff of Rex. And then after I finished at Pitt, I went back to Eastern Pennsylvania and became a head high school coach. I was at 2 different high schools. One's called William Penn, the other one's called North Penn. Was at North Penn for 5 years, and just kept in touch with Matt through the years, and just said to him, hey, if there's ever, he kind of knew that I had a technical background in addition to the football.
And you were a head high school football?
Yes.
Okay.
And he knew I had a technical background where I was good on the computer. I did some video stuff at Pittsburgh as well. I was just kind of trying to be a jack of all trades.
That's so much more important than maybe people could think. And I think when Billick came here, the one thing that he brought with him was this sense of technology that Ted Marchibroda did not have, and certainly something that perhaps Belichick didn't excel at early in his career in Cleveland when the franchise made the transition here, that Billick sort of ushered in a computer state. I mean, so much fun that, some papers writers call him CompuCoach, and made up names for them or whatever. But I mean, you can only imagine at this point, to not have that technology background, you could not coach in the league at this point, right?
It was basically the area that I thought that I think was new, was kind of cutting edge, that I thought would separate myself from anybody else that was potentially looking to coach at a higher level than in high school. And I was just fortunate that Matt, there was a situation here in Baltimore in 2002 when the season ended, that it wasn't an on-the-field coaching position. It was actually working with the video department. There was a project working with the guys in the IT department. They were changing their laptops over from Macintosh to IBM, and I think Brian and Matt had like 5,000 playbook drawings that they needed converted. So they needed somebody to come in and do that project as well. It was just one of those things where I had contacted them at the right time, and I came to met Brian and got hired.
Because for anybody out there listening, anybody here in the crowd at Pips Pub tonight, we all know where we were at Super Bowl 35. I mean, I was in Tampa, I heard where my mom was. I mean, everybody knows where they were that night. If you're a Raven fan, you're probably an Eagles fan, probably?
I am an Eagles fan.
You are an Eagles fan, okay.
I was an Eagles fan.
Okay, so you grew up Eagles. You're a high school coach on January 28, 2001, correct?
Yes.
What was your experience with that? It's just interesting. You're doing these game plans now, and on Super Bowl Sunday, you were just a high school coach, and to all of us, that Super Bowl feels like it was about 6 weeks ago, not 6 years ago.
Well, fortunately for me, I had a connection with Matt. It was still pretty strong, so obviously I was pulling hard for the Ravens that night.
Okay, so you're pulling hard for the Ravens. You watched that game, never knowing that. And in the back of your mind, were you thinking maybe someday Matt will help me get into the league, or it had to have been your dream to work at the NFL level, and there's a lot of coaches out there, or even scouts. I look at Kokinis or DaCosta, they never really had jobs anywhere else where they did anything else in the real world. They came out of college in the early 20s and took the $10,000 a year job being a scout or whatever, trying to eat the Campbell's soup recipe to, eat pizza and Happy Meals to try to get into the league. You really took another path where you were an adult with teenage children and a job and just a regular high school guy in Philadelphia, just coaching the way I guess a lot of these people that Brian now teaches clinics are doing right now. Just a dream, right?
Oh, absolutely. Just for the record, I just became a father of a teenager about a month ago. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So you had school-age children. Okay. But getting into the league and now knowing what you know about the NFL, tell me the difference between what your father taught you 20 years ago when you were a high school quarterback. I mean, is the game different, or is it the technology of how the game is taught different?
There are a lot of similarities in so many ways. Football is football, and there's tried and true fundamentals and ways, concept-wise, and just how you approach the game, decision-making things that you do in certain situations that are universal. Doesn't matter whether it's Pop Warner or all the way through the NFL. And then at the same time, there's also, it's a lot more advanced X's and O's wise when you're packaging plays together. When these guys are doing their job, they're doing it full time.
Sure.
So I think that's one of the biggest differences, is that you can get a lot more complicated with it from an X's and O's standpoint. But from a fundamental standpoint, I think it's absolutely the same.